Hi, I'm Luna. I'll tell my story. My name is Lena Chen, and my world has always been measured in recipes, not code. For 22 years, the rhythm of my life was set to the familiar soundtrack of my family's restaurant, the Jade Dragon. The rhythmic chop of knives, the sizzle of the wok, the steady hum of conversation, and the low, commanding voice of my father, Jin Chen. To him, this was the only real work, tangible, honest. It was a legacy built by his father, and his father before him. A dynasty of dough and broth. My older brother Alex and I were born into its steam. While other children played, we learned to fold dumplings and tally bills. But where Alex's hands grew clumsy with resentment, mine itched for something else. I found my escape in the glow of a laptop screen, hidden under the counter during slow hours. While my father saw business of flesh and blood, I saw patterns. The flow of customers, the inventory levels, the perfect alchemy of ingredients. They were all data waiting to be optimized. I taught myself to code through online tutorials, building simple apps to streamline our ordering system. My father called it a distraction. To me, it was a language that made more sense than any other. One bustling Friday evening, the air thick with the scent of ginger and soy, the crisis hit. The ancient computer that held all our orders and accounts froze, then died with a final, pathetic whir. Chaos erupted. Orders were lost. Waitstaff scrambled with notepads, and the line of customers grew restless and impatient. My father's face, usually a mask of stoic control, was flushed with a panic I rarely saw. "We will lose the whole night," he muttered, staring at the blank screen as if he could will it back to life. This was my chance. My heart hammered against my ribs. "Baba," I said, my voice quieter than I intended. "I can fix this." He turned to me, his eyes sweeping over me, already dismissing the idea. "Lena, not now. Go help your mother with the dishes." But my mother, May, caught my eye from across the room. She gave me a small, almost imperceptible nod. It was all the permission I needed. "I built a backup system," I insisted, my voice gaining a sliver of strength. "On my laptop. I can get us running again." The look he gave me was a mixture of annoyance and profound skepticism. But with the noise of discontent growing louder from the dining room, he had no other options. He waved a dismissive hand. "Fine, do what you want." I ducked under the counter, grabbed my bag, and my fingers flew across the keyboard. Within minutes, I had my program running on a tablet, syncing with the kitchen. The orders began printing again. The tension in the room broke like a fever. My father stared at the printer as it spat out ticket after ticket. The silence that stretched between us was heavier than any shout. He looked at the tablet, then at me, his expression unreadable. He simply grunted, "Good," before turning back to the wok, the moment of vulnerability gone as quickly as it came. But later that night, as I was wiping down the last tables, I found him standing by the dead computer, holding my tablet. He wasn't angry. He looked confused. "You made this?" he asked, his voice low. "Yes," I said, bracing for criticism. He handed it back to me, his rough fingers brushing against mine. "Humph. It is efficient." It wasn't pride. It wasn't approval. But it was the first time he had ever acknowledged that my world of code could touch his world of tradition. And that single, grudging word, efficient, felt like a crack in a great wall. It was the smallest of openings, but for me, it was everything. It was a glimpse of a path forward, a way to bridge the two halves of my soul. I just didn't know yet how deep that crack would go, or what would happen when the whole wall began to crumble. The word efficient lingered in the air long after my father spoke it, a fragile trophy I clutched tightly. It was the first crack in the imposing wall of his expectations, and I was determined to widen it. In the days that followed, the rhythm of the noodle house felt different. the steam, the clatter of dishes, my father's commanding voice, it was all the same. Yet something had shifted. His eyes now followed me with a new, appraising curiosity. It wasn't approval, but it was a form of acknowledgement. And for now, that was enough. My secret world, once confined to a laptop under the counter, now had a physical form. A small, dusty office on the university campus. Professor Tanaka, a man of few words but immense insight, had offered it to me after I'd solved a complex algorithm he deemed unsolvable. "A mind like yours requires space, Miss Chen," he'd said, placing the key in my hand. "Do not let it go to waste." Those words became my mission. It was in this sanctuary that my double life truly took shape. By day, I was Lena, the dutiful daughter, balancing ledgers and taking orders. By night, I was someone else entirely. An architect of ideas, a builder of digital worlds. The campus after dark was a realm of quiet potential, and in my dimly lit office, surrounded by whiteboards covered in equations and code, I felt a sense of purpose I'd never known. Professor Tanaka, with his gentle guidance, pointed me toward the university's annual Innovation Challenge. The prize was not just $50,000 in funding, but a chance to prove that my ideas mattered. "Think beyond inventory systems," he urged. "What problem keeps you awake at night?" The answer was immediate. Waste. I had spent my life watching perfectly good food get tossed out because of poor planning. I would build something to change that. But ambition required allies. I found them in my data structures study group. Chloe, whose ability to find patterns in chaos was nothing short of genius, and David, whose energy and creativity were infectious. When I shared my idea for an AI model designed to predict inventory needs for small restaurants, their eyes lit up with the same fire I felt. "Your father can't know," I warned them, the old fear tightening my chest. David simply grinned. "Then we'll be stealthy. Startup ninjas." And so our secret alliance began. Our meetings moved from the library to my office, where we worked late into the night, fueled by cheap pizza and shared determination. Chloe crunched numbers with fierce precision, David sketched out user interfaces, and I wove it all together with code. We called our project Predictive Plate, and with every line of code, it felt more real, more possible. For the first time, I was not just following a path laid out for me. I was creating my own. But secrets are heavy burdens. The guilt of deception weighed on me, especially during Sunday dinners when my father would discuss the real business with pride. One evening, as I updated the restaurant's books, he paused beside me. "You've been working late often," he noted, his tone neutral but his eyes sharp. "The numbers must be perfect." I nodded, my heart hammering against my ribs. He saw diligence where there was deceit, commitment where there was rebellion. The pressure of two lives began to wear on me. Small mistakes crept into my work at the restaurant. A misplaced order, a miscalculated bill. My father's patience, always thin, frayed completely. "Your head is in the clouds, Lena," he snapped one night, after I'd burned a batch of rice. "This is what matters. Focus." I bit my tongue, the words I wanted to scream lodged in my throat. He saw only carelessness, not the exhaustion of someone stretched between two worlds. The night before the competition deadline, we were putting the final touches on Predictive Plate. The air in the office was thick with focus and fatigue. We were so close. Then my phone buzzed. A message from my brother, Alex. "Dad's looking for you. He knows you're not at the library. Where are you?" The words felt like a physical blow. The walls I'd carefully built around my secret were crumbling. I looked at Chloe and David, their faces etched with hope and exhaustion. We had come too far to turn back now. I took a deep, steadying breath, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. I could run back, make up an excuse, and face my father's disappointment. Or I could stand my ground and fight for the future I believed in. Without another word, I turned my phone face down and clicked submit. The silent rebellion was over. The real battle had just begun. The submission complete screen glowed in the dim office. My victory felt hollow. The adrenaline faded, replaced by cold dread. My phone buzzed violently on the desk. First Alex, then my mother. I didn't need to answer. I knew. My father knows, I whispered to my teammates. Their excited smiles vanished. The walk home was a blur of fear. I pushed open the restaurant's back door. The main lights were off, but a single bulb illuminated the kitchen. My father sat at the metal table, a cold cup of tea in front of him. He didn't look up. "Baba," I said, my voice thin in the silence. He finally lifted his gaze. His eyes held no anger, only a deep disappointment that felt worse than any shout. "Where were you?" His voice was low, dangerous. "Do not lie." "I was at the university, working on a project for a competition." "A competition?" He said the word like it was meaningless. "What is more important than your family? Your responsibilities here?" "It's an innovation challenge. The winner gets funding. I built a tool to reduce food waste. I called it Predictive Plate." For a second, curiosity flickered in his eyes. Then it died. "You lied. You neglected your duties for a fantasy." "It's not a fantasy. It works. We submitted it." "We?" The word cracked like ice. "Who is we?" "My teammates. We did it together." His face darkened. "You shame this family, chasing foolish ideas while your brother works faithfully here. You think you are better than us? I just want something different." "This is your legacy," he roared, standing suddenly. "Not some computer game. You will stop this. No more university at night. No more team." The ultimatum hung between us. I looked at him, the man who valued work, but never my dreams. My fear hardened into resolve. "No," I said. He stared, stunned. He had never heard me refuse him. "No," I repeated, stronger. "I won't quit." "If you walk out that door," he said, his voice trembling, "you are choosing them over your family." It wasn't about them. It was about me. Without another word, I turned and walked out. The reckoning was over. The consequences were just beginning. The door clicked shut behind me, the sound final, like a tomb ceiling. The night air was cold, a stark contrast to the heated kitchen. I stood there on the pavement, shaking, waiting for the sound of the door reopening, for my father's voice calling me back. It never came. I had nowhere to go. The university office was locked. My home was no longer mine. I ended up on Chloe's doorstep, my explanation lost in silent, heaving sobs. Her parents, kind and bewildered, gave me a blanket and the couch without question. The next morning, reality was a cold slap. I had my laptop, my backpack, and the clothes I was wearing. My bank account was linked to my father's. I had a few dollars to my name. My phone was flooded with messages. My mother, heartbroken and pleading. Alex, angry and confused. "What did you do?" "He's furious." And one from my father, simple and absolute. "Your actions have consequences. Your tuition is stopped. Do not come back." The world I had built so carefully had evaporated overnight. I was in exile. But the competition results were due. Desperation became my new fuel. I couldn't afford to fall apart. Chloe and David became my lifeline. We met at the library, our moods somber. The excitement of the submission was gone, replaced by a grim determination. "We have to win," David said, his usual humor absent. "There's no other option now." Days blurred into a cycle of anxious waiting and frantic job hunting. I found cash-in-hand work, washing dishes in a noisy, greasy diner. My hands, which had written elegant code, were now raw and perpetually soaked. The irony was bitter. Every scrubbed pot felt like a step backward, a confirmation of my father's prophecy. A week after the confrontation, the email arrived. RE, Innovation Challenge Decision. My heart stopped. I couldn't open it alone. I called Chloe and David, my voice trembling. We met in our usual spot, huddled around my phone like it was alive. "You do it," I said, pushing the phone toward Chloe. She took a deep breath and opened it. Her eyes scanned the text, her expression unreadable. Then a slow smile spread across her face. "We did it," she whispered. Then louder, "We're finalists." The relief was so violent it left me dizzy. We hadn't won the top prize, but we were in the top 3. We had a chance to pitch live to the judges and investors in 2 weeks. It was a lifeline. But the email contained another crucial detail. The final round required a live demonstration, and for that, I needed better hardware than my aging laptop. I needed a powerful server to run our AI model smoothly, something I could never afford. The problem seemed insurmountable, until I remembered Professor Tanaka. Swallowing my pride, I went to his office and laid my situation bare. The fight, the disownment, the desperate need for resources. He listened quietly, his aged face a mask of compassion. "A tree that bends in the wind does not break," he said softly. He didn't offer pity. He offered a solution. "The computer science department has a server lab for advanced projects. I will vouch for you. You may use it after hours." It was a miracle. That night, in the sterile, cold air of the server room, I felt a flicker of hope. We had a fighting chance. The day of the final pitch arrived. I stood in the restroom of the university's grand auditorium, staring at my reflection. I wore a simple, borrowed blazer from Chloe. I looked tired, older. But my eyes held a new, hardened resolve. The diner's smell of grease still seemed to cling to me, a reminder of how far I had fallen, and how much I had to climb. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Good luck today. Alex." It wasn't an apology, it wasn't forgiveness, but it was a thread, however thin, connecting me to the family I had lost. I took a deep breath, squared my shoulders, and walked out to face my future. The aftermath had been chaos, but from the rubble, I was beginning to rebuild. The auditorium hummed with a low electric energy. I stood in the wings, my palms slick with sweat, the borrowed blazer feeling like a costume. From the shadows, I watched the other finalists, a team from the business school with sleek presentations and a confident duo from the engineering department. They looked like they belonged. I felt like an imposter who had snuck in through the service entrance. My father's last text felt branded onto my mind. "Your tuition is stopped." The words were a chain, pulling me back into the doubt that had plagued me all week. What was I doing here? I was a dishwasher who had coded a dream on stolen server time. A hand touched my elbow. I flinched. It was Professor Tanaka. He didn't smile. His calm, steady gaze was an anchor. "A tree does not grow from nothing, Lena," he said quietly. "It grows from a single seed. You have already planted yours. Now let them see what has sprouted." Before I could reply, the announcer's voice boomed through the hall. "And our next finalist, Team Predictive Plate." The lights were blinding. A hush fell over the crowd. I could just make out the judges in the front row, their faces stern, unreadable. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. For a terrifying second, my mind went completely, utterly blank. Then my eyes found Chloe and David in the front row. David gave me a frantic thumbs up. Chloe nodded, her expression fierce with belief. For them, I thought. I have to do this for them. I took a sharp breath, clicked the slide remote, and began. My voice was shaky at first. I explained the problem of food waste, the economic drain on small businesses like my family's. I spoke from a place of real, aching experience. The statistics came from nights spent watching perfectly good food be thrown away. The judges, who had listened politely to the previous presentations, leaned forward slightly. Then I launched the live demo. The screen behind me lit up with our interface. I input simulated data for a restaurant, inventory levels, past sales, even the weather forecast. The AI model whirred to life, its calculations displayed on the big screen for all to see. In 10 seconds, I said, my voice growing stronger. Our model will predict the optimal inventory order for the next day, reducing potential waste by an estimated 38% while maintaining a 99% stock availability rate. The auditorium was silent, every eye fixed on the countdown on the screen. The 10 seconds felt like an eternity. I held my breath, praying the university's servers wouldn't choose this moment to fail. The result flashed on the screen. A perfect, elegant order list. A murmur of appreciation rippled through the audience. One of the judges, a woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense haircut, allowed herself a small, impressed smile. The questions began. They were technical, probing, designed to find the weak spots. But I knew our code inside and out. I had built its core. I answered about data training sets, algorithmic weighting, and scalability. My answers weren't polished like the business teams had been, but they were real. They were mine. As I stepped off the stage to solid applause, the adrenaline crash was immediate. My knees felt weak. Chloe and David rushed over. "You were amazing," Chloe exclaimed. Hugging me. "They loved it," David added, practically bouncing. But the real test was yet to come. The judges deliberated for what felt like hours. Finally, they returned to the stage. The announcer took the envelope. In third place, Team Venture from the School of Business. Polite applause. My stomach tightened. In second place, the Dynamo Duo from Engineering. My heart sank. We hadn't placed. The dream was over. I had risked everything for nothing. I couldn't even look at my team. And the winner of this year's Innovation Challenge and the $50,000 seed funding prize. The pause was torture. Is teen predictive plate. The world exploded in sound. I stood frozen, unable to process it. Chloe screamed next to me. David practically lifted me off my feet in a bear hug. The lights, the applause, it was a dizzying whirl. The sharp-eyed judge who had smiled earlier approached me as I went to collect the oversized check. She pressed a business card into my hand. "Maria Rossi," she said, "I'm a venture capitalist. Your presentation was the only one that didn't feel like a presentation. It felt real. Call my office next week. Let's talk." I stood there, holding a fake check for $50,000 and a real business card that felt infinitely more valuable. I had come here for validation, for a chance to prove my father wrong. But as I looked out at the cheering crowd, at my beaming teammates, I realized I had gotten something else entirely. I had proven myself right. The stage had been the easiest part. The real work was about to begin. The high from winning didn't last. The $50,000 was a lifeline, but it vanished quickly. Server costs, legal fees for incorporating, and a tiny office space ate through the prize money in weeks. We were officially a company, but we were broke. Maria Rossi's investment offer was our only hope. The meeting was in a sleek high-rise, a world away from our dusty university office. Maria was all sharp edges and calculated smiles. Her offer was generous, enough to keep us afloat for a year, but the conditions were brutal. She demanded a larger share of the company and a seat on a board that didn't yet exist. Most importantly, She wanted a seasoned CEO to replace me. "You're a brilliant coder, Lena," she said, not unkindly. "But a startup needs a leader with experience." I felt the ground disappear beneath me. This wasn't the deal I dreamed of. It was a takeover. I left her office, the contract burning a hole in my bag. That night, I sat on the floor of my tiny rented room, the single bare bulb overhead mirroring my loneliness. I called Professor Tanaka. "What should I do?" I asked, my voice cracking. "Do you believe in your product?" he asked simply. "With everything I am." "Then you must lead it, even if you stumble, especially if you stumble." The next morning, I told my team. David was ready to take the deal. "It's money, Lena. We need it to survive." Chloe was silent, her eyes on me. I shook my head. "If we give up control now, it stops being ours. We built this. We have to see it through." I emailed Noria, declining her offer. The silence that followed was terrifying. A week later, as our bank account neared zero, a small catering company called. They'd heard about us from the competition and were desperate for a solution. They couldn't pay much, but they could pay. It wasn't a venture capital miracle. It was a first client, then another, a local coffee shop chain, then another. We weren't rich. We were surviving. But every invoice paid was a validation. We were building our own path, one small client at a time. The first hurdle wasn't cleared with a giant check, but with the slow, hard work of believing we could do it ourselves. Our fragile stability shattered with a single email. The subject line, "Data breach," sent a jolt of ice through my veins. A client's customer list, managed through our software, had been leaked online. Within hours, 2 more clients reported similar incidents. Panic seized our small office. The word vulnerability began trending in reviews and forum posts about predictive plate. David paced near the windows, phone pressed to his ear, trying to calm furious clients threatening legal action. Chloe's face was pale as her fingers flew across the keyboard, tracing every line of code. "It's not us, Lena," she insisted, voice tense. "Our encryption is solid. The breach isn't from our side." But truth meant little when trust was crumbling. Maria Rossi's warning echoed in my mind. A startup needs a leader with experience. I had led us right into disaster. Then I saw it, the name Anderson Building Supply flashing on the caller ID. My father's company. Shame, hot and sudden, flushed through me. I couldn't answer. I let it ring. Soon after, a text came from Alex. "Dad heard about your security issues. He says the receptionist position is still open when you're ready to be realistic." The words landed like a final blow. I retreated to the server room, sliding down against the cool metal cabinets. The hum of machines mirrored the chaos in my mind. He was right. I had failed. I don't know how long I sat there before the door cracked open. Chloe stepped in, her expression weary but clear. She sat beside me, not speaking, just offering her presence. Then she turned her screen toward me. "Look, it's a third-party payment plugin one of our clients insisted on using. Their system was compromised, not ours." The relief was physical, dizzying, but the damage was done. We had to act. I stood, wiping my face. "Call every client. Set up a conference call tonight." We faced them all, every single worried, angry voice. I explained the truth, showed Chloe's evidence, and took responsibility for not anticipating the risk. Then I made the only offer I could. "We will audit and secure every affected account at no cost, no excuses." Silence followed. Then, one by one, they agreed. The unraveling had nearly broken us, but in its wake, something new emerged, not just trust slowly rebuilding, but a fiercer, clearer resolve. We had stared into the abyss, and together, we chose to fight. Weeks of grueling work followed the breach. We manually audited every client's system, our coffers draining with each free migration we performed. But slowly, the anger turned to gratitude. Our transparency had salvaged our reputation. Then, my mother appeared at the office door, holding a familiar ceramic container. The scent of her ginger scallion noodles, my favorite, filled the room. "I brought you dinner," she said softly, her eyes taking in our modest space. "Your father doesn't know I'm here." Her visits became a weekly secret. Every Thursday, she brought food for the whole team, her quiet presence a balm to our stress. She was building a bridge my father refused to cross. The true turning point arrived via courier, a heavy box with no return address. Inside, nestled in foam, was a brand new enterprise-grade server blade. A typed note on Anderson Building Supply letterhead was attached. "A business cannot run on borrowed hardware, JC." I stared, my hands trembling. It wasn't an apology or praise. It was something more practical and more profound, an acknowledgement. He was investing in my infrastructure, not my dream. But for him, infrastructure was the dream. This was his language. I sent a formal invoice for the server, listing it as a hardware investment. He paid it within the hour. A month later, my mother orchestrated a dinner at a neutral restaurant. "He won't apologize," she warned, "but he will sit and he will listen." The conversation was stiff, circling safe topics. Then, over dessert, he cleared his throat. "The server, it is functioning adequately?" "Yes," I said. "It's helped us onboard 3 new clients." He gave a short, satisfied nod. "Good. Equipment matters." To my astonishment, he began asking real business questions about clients, overhead, growth. The dismissal was gone, replaced by a gruff, professional curiosity. He didn't say he was proud, but as we left, he paused. "Your mother says you work too hard. Do not burn out. A poorly managed asset is no asset at all." It was a warning, it was advice. It was from him, a form of love. The war wasn't over, but a truce had been declared. We had found a new language, built on grudging, mutual respect. It was enough.